because many people have no form of ID at all. And documents you present to support your case cannot be verified. If you ask people to show evidence that they have paid tax, it's a huge case. But it all comes to our non-use of records. Even people who pay taxes don't keep their receipts, so they can't verify it. And so the approach now is, okay, let every Ghanaian go on the database. Your address is now verifiable, so the GPS address system, wherever you stand, you can generate the address, and it goes into the system. You can be traced by the GPS system or even Google. Once you enter your address, it can be directed to your house. These are the challenges, and that is what the Guru boys take advantage of. They say, bring your house number. You don't even know your house number. So they'll create one for you. They'll create an ID system for you. So the processes leading to the formalization, making it easy to do the work on the internet, is what we are struggling to put in place now. But in practice, I agree with you entirely. There's no need for me to go and wait and see somebody, they bring a passport. We've never had a passport. So the processes that have been put in place, they are all aimed at making the doing registration and doing business easy. I'm surprised that there are complaints that they have gone up. They have not. The taxes and the rates are passed in Parliament. In fact, some have been reduced. A few have been added. What has actually happened is that, you know, before we introduce what we call paperless, customs officials will inspect your things and they will put the quantity and the quality manually. And that system is very badly manipulated. Everybody who has been a part knows that you negotiate with the customs officials, or they negotiate with you and agree on what to enter. And they encourage you that if you put the entire quantity or the quality, you will pay more. So let me help you. Because of that, many of the items people used to pay for are far lower in quantity and quality. If you brought these, which is Holland, expensive, you enter it as China, lower, so that you pay the lower rate. Now with the introduction of the paperless, the things you enter into your cargo, your container, are exactly the thing that will be scanned and taken out. So it's the same thing you brought last year. The rates have been reduced, but you pay more because now the true value is being used to determine.
No one is able to manipulate the system.
I know they are still doing it. They find a way of breaking down the computer systems. They generate backlog and there's agitation, and they allow them to do the manual things. But beyond that, I'm surprised when people complain that the other complaint I heard was that particularly vehicles,
Right.
the values that I use to calculate the duty are arbitrary and high.
Yeah.
Let me start from, I think, 77 or thereabout. My other brother was in Germany. We brought in a vehicle. The paper included a cost. The clearing agent said, if you use this cost, you'll pay a lot more. So, wait. They generated a new one, which was much lower than the cost. And that was used to determine the duty that was paid. And that went on for a while. The government noticed, or they found out, that we are getting much less of the revenue we're entitled to due to this manipulation of the vehicle. So now, you will not tell us the cost of the vehicle again. We will determine the cost of the vehicle from the market price, from the manufacturer's end. What was the cost at the time of manufacturing? And then they depreciate it annually. So By the time they get to 10 years, 5 years, they determine the cost. In either dollar or in the hard currency, say, then it is converted to Ghana currency. And then the appropriate rates are applied. An additional 70 pesos you must pay. And this is affecting. The other thing is that, please, you can always verify how much you pay in dollar terms before you ship the items. Take advantage of that. Go to the customs website, look at the charges, and for each vehicle, if they look at the make, the engine capacity, and the year, and be careful. If you're bringing a vehicle that has 3.0 onward, there's additional charge now. Yes, there's additional charge, so you know that you will pay more if you bring in that vehicle. And so, if you look at it and you cannot afford the duty, don't ship it for it to be seized at the government. Or wait until you pile up enough money to pay the duty before you ship it.
On the side, I'm a realtor, but I do that on the side. As I'm talking, I have 3 cars at the port, trying to juggle around and clear it up. But currently, I'm thinking of why do I ship car to Ghana when we have car manufacturing company in Ghana? At least that's what I know. Katanka, they call it.
Yeah.
So my question is, what is the government doing to promote this industry in Ghana? I think if the government comes up with initiative to patronize this Ghanaian business, we, the diaspora, can also patronize this business. So what is the government doing to patronize or help in developing Kantaka or Ghanaian business in manufacturing cars? So that is my question. So we'll take a couple of questions, then we'll no.
She wanted to talk anyway.
My name is Sadek Abwaji. I would like to be enlightened on the double tax system in our education. How it's going to impact on the quality of education.
Aside from getting in touch with lawyers, we could go there. Now, my question is it by appointment or is it by walk-in? So, if it's by appointment, how do we get that information? And, you know.
All right. Thank you. Steve.
We get that information.
Sure, Mr. Davis. Thank you. I'm Steve there from Echo Radio, Steve Show. My question is to piggyback on. My question is to piggyback on what Davis and Ziga talked about with regards to car manufacturer in Ghana.
After that, we move to community. Now, nobody can force anybody to say, come and register and take a national ID. However, once the exercise is finished, everything you need from official source, you have to identify yourself. Right. And the source of identification is your national ID. So I hold my national ID. They have programmed my passport onto it. My voter's card is programmed into it. My Senate card is programmed into it. My driver's license is programmed into it. So once I hold a card, I don't need to carry my driver's license. I don't need to carry my passport. I don't need to carry my voter ID card. It is intended to be one-stop shop for everything that you will need to identify yourself. Now, indeed, since we started, the banks of Ghana have stopped accepting the voter ID as a means of identification. So once we are full, you will go for it. Now it is free, you don't pay anything. Government is bearing the cost. When the program ends, anybody who comes after that, you pay the full cost. If you lose it and you want a new card, you will pay the full cost. They build the data and the banks will use the data as a source of tracing anybody. So, and this, we can't force anybody, but the circumstances will force you. Can you live in this country without ID?
No.
But nobody forces you to go and take an ID. The circumstances will force you to take an ID. And that is how the program is. The seeming controversy is political, nothing more. The law was made in Parliament. Nobody objected to any of the identification requirements. Indeed, if you go through the answers, you see that those that are complaining now actually proposed the thing they're complaining about. It is official. Probably they're having second thoughts. But I don't think there's a need to amend the law. Let's work with the law as it is.
This double track system is first being introduced into our system this year. Okay, during the time of independence, our population was just around 3 million citizens. Now we are around 30 million. Our population has grown so much, but not our education infrastructure. Most of them were built around independence, and then very few of them have been built by subsequent governments. In the past, what government used to do was the cut-off system, whereas even there are students who probably passed to an extent, but they introduced a cut-off just so that they will not get the opportunity to place them because they didn't have the room to place them. Every year, we were losing close to 90,000 students at GHS level to drop out. Okay. Per our free senior high school policy, we insist that every student who has passed their exam should also get the opportunity to get a placement to further their education. Hence the introduction of the double track system. First of all, in Ghana, we used to practice the 3 terms. Now we are doing 2 semesters for the SHS. And then times when the school is on vacation and the building is empty and not being utilized for educational purposes. Now we feel, over here, I think in California, it's very popular there, and they call it all-year school. So when there's vacation, we feel the other students who didn't have the opportunity, who would otherwise would probably not have the opportunity, should get the chance to go to school. So instead of 3 terms, there's 2 terms, and then 2 semesters. And the popular question is, aren't we shortchanging some students with their learning hours? Most importantly, with education, I understand the best is to make sure that the child is not shortchanged on their, or the student is not shortchanged on the contact hours with the teacher. So because of this purpose, the contact hours has been increased from 7 a.m. in the morning to 4 p.m. closing time, as against previously 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. So that has increased their contact time. And now, because they are going to be at home at long intervals, there are supposed to be some research assignments and other things that's supposed to keep them busy for them to submit when they get back to school. In a nutshell, I think this is all about the double track system. I'm not so sure if there's something that I didn't touch on.
Simply put it this way, we are going to use the schools that have good enough facilities running 2 secondary schools in 1 compound. So there will be 2 headmasters.
There's going to be 2 sets of teachers,
Yes.
but 1 headmaster.
Very well. So in effect, 2 schools, 1 compound. And it's not
To secure the place. How much?
put a factory to do what?
No, to secure Ghana 2 cameras, CCTV cameras all over the place.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking about that.
Yes.
Ghana.
So my idea was, look, I have hundreds of workers in Ghana. manufacture cameras. We have one district, one factory. Government doesn't have to give me money. I came in from Chicago. I've been paying taxes whilst the foreigners are getting tax exemptions. Because I have Ghanaian passport. I didn't come with American passport. So the frustrations of me, for example, that okay, if you help a government to come to power, who is building one district, one factory? You might be building 200 factories. You're going to put cameras on all the factories. Why can't they guarantee someone like me to put that? Because I'm working on Bank of Ghana, almost 5 Bank of Ghana's in Africa, central banks in Africa. I manufacture the same cameras. The cameras in Bank of Ghana now, almost 2,000 cameras was done by me and the NDC. And my own party come to power. I'm just telling the reality of the frustration of entrepreneurs. Because I may be forced to sack almost 100 workers. Look at the effect of it on the government in power. So if you can strategically pick like 10, 20 entrepreneurs and protect their interest. Dangote didn't become Dangote. He was protected by the Nigerian government and made him successful. That is what we need to do as a country. Nobody's asking too much. Because those foreigners are giving tax exemptions and they repatriate all the money out. MTN is a foreign company. Washington's government gave those licenses to 10 successful entrepreneurs, 4G licenses to print telecom industry there, and give them like 35 years to pay the money back, $60 million. These are strategies that in opposition people have the idea to sit down. Now when we get to power, we can't even meet people to discuss it. And that's a frustration, that's a reality. When the people that's going to vote are our own people, and when they don't get jobs to do, when you give jobs to people, you guarantee all your jobs.
Thank you. Good to ask you something. We have a
That's something you do. So I'm saying in the future, when we ask them for information, we'll try to give them something to write.
Please, give me Ghanaian are not entitled to compete. So if any company competes in a national competitive bidding, that company is Ghanaian. Maybe the owners, just like some of you are Americans, so to speak, but you float companies in Ghana. Right. So when it comes to investments, the things that it would be helpful indeed if I had, at the time I was head of DVLA. Does anybody have a Ghana license card, driver's license? Right. I put it in it. You must be registered in Ghana to be able to compete. So all the because they were coming from Boston. Eventually, the company that won partnered with Digimarc ID Systems of Boston. But you cannot come on your own. But often indeed, when it comes to technology, we need the partnership. From my experience, too many of us talk a lot more than we do. And if you look at many of the government projects that are failed, we focused on, oh, this is it, and in the end, our fingers were bent. So many people have trust issues with the Ghanaian companies. But if it's a national competitive bidding, then a company is not permitted to bid unless it is Ghanaian. If it is international, then often, if it is international, then the funding is coming from a source other than the government of Ghana budget. And they will insist that we should be open to any company from the world. I think what my brother is saying is that he has won some bids and have performed. If you have, then you're already in the system. How did you win the first but you cannot win the second? If I understand you, you won on the NDC, but your MPP, so you should be given preference. Probably we should look at how we can get a preference. When it comes to not getting other people to talk to, I can't speak to that. My work makes me president. I sit in Parliament from 10 to 2, and I go and sit at my office to 7. So anybody who walks in, I'll give you audience.
Officially 22. There are times that
we sit beyond that. Yeah. But some people have to move, and it may be difficult to track them down. So I don't know how to speak for those who have not been able to speak to. I don't know their schedule. But for those who know some of us, you find that it's an open door policy. You walk in, I'll listen to you. If there's anything I can do, for those of us in Parliament, we think it's from all sides. And I'm sure you're adept enough and rooting yourself through the competition if you can win under the NVC. Try to perfect it.
Mr. Speaker, I'm speaking for Ghanaian entrepreneurs and the frustrations of not only me. I've never come to an MPP, although I'm an MPP man, sorry, for any country. I'm just speaking the frustrations of Ghanaian entrepreneurs in general, not me. Thank you.
Well, I'm surprised because in the last 1.5 years, we have given very little contracts that are locally funded. If it's not locally funded, then I tell you, your leverage is little. Leverage is little. For me to go and construct, the only thing is to ensure that the quality they do is equal to, we get value for money. The agreement was approved in Parliament the day we were rising, and then the President is in China to finalize it. So we're sure very soon some of the major challenges, every region will have some new roads, new bridges, new hospitals, new schools constructed. That's how it is intended to use these facilities. But what they are taking is only a peanut out of the total deposit. So we also made a new law setting up aluminium industry. So once they mine, the processing beyond that. Valco is closed because we didn't have aluminium to process, and then we had power problems. Now we have overcome our power challenges, and then we're going to mine the aluminium. Valco will come back to life, and we hope that we'll benefit from it. Did I leave anything out?
I think you took care of everything. I only wanted to add from the challenges of unemployment in our localities. That is why we're ready to assist and facilitate the private sector to be able to set up industries in the various districts and municipalities, just to also spread the development. Once there's a factory there, it will attract other development. It will certainly attract a market, some roads and other amenities there to be taken care of. I think he really exhausted the National Cathedral bit. Well, it's fair when people raise concerns, but just as he said, if all the government is doing is to provide the land, then really, what are we complaining about? It's not as if we are the ones funding the entire project. It's all about the land. If we are hoping that the government will be able to give some sort of support here and there to other individuals for one reason or the other, why do we complain if the government is giving this kind of support to the Christian group, a large group at that, in Ghana? So this is also part of the kind of support system that the government is giving. Rich Hospital, he handled it. I think what you wanted to talk about was the Legon Hospital.
Right.
It's the Legon Hospital,
Yeah.
I'm sure you were referring to. But that hospital had been out of business for a while because of the expansion and the renovation, and obviously was almost or totally empty. So before the hospital could get back into business, there had to be some sort of recruitment and then put some stuff there. There was absolutely no way we could open the hospital up to for people to get in with emergencies to an empty room. They had to go through some recruitment processes, and that some have been done, and then they are still ongoing. So for now, some parts are working, but the rest of the hospital is still ongoing. To professionalize the tradesmen, I've been here a few times when...
And Honorable Nanama Dokua Isiama Eje, for sharing your time, energy, and knowledge to participate in an engaging, candid, and fruitful conversation with the Ghanaian community of Chicago. I also thank the organizers, GPNA, GNC, WGHC, Echo Radio for hosting this much-needed event. And thank you, guests, for being here on a weeknight to contribute to this town hall meeting in a respectful manner. Please be safe going home and have a good rest of your evening.